2.
It's on, the red button's going on. Yep, you're on.
Good afternoon, Glasgow. This is the 16th of April, the anniversary of the massacre at Culloden. On the 16th of April 1746, the Scots, the Highlanders, were massacred at Culloden. After the Duke of Cumberland massacred the Highlanders, he instructed his troops to go all over the area and kill every man, woman and child in the area. They have tried over hundreds of years to completely destroy the Scottish people. Even from the very earliest times, they have tried to wipe out our history and our nation. For 1,000 years, 1,000 years, Scotland was a nation. It wasn't until 1707, when they finally took bribes from the members of Parliament in Scotland and Edinburgh, that we were absorbed under the so-called Treaty of Union, and Scotland was reduced to the state of a conquered country. We're not just here to remember that this is the anniversary of Culloden, but also all the Scots who fought for Scotland's freedom. This building here used to be Shawfield Mansion. On the wall there is a plaque to Bonnie Prince Charlie. He actually stayed at this location from December the 26th, 1745, up until the 6th of January 1746. While he was here, the troops were stationed down in Glasgow Green. He had 6,000 troops. Many of them deserted the army though, and by the time he got to Culloden, it was probably around about 4,500. And of course, the Scots were massacred at Culloden. Every one of them. I'm now going to go through all the heroes of Scotland's history and give you a brief details of what happened. This is Andrew Murray. He was the joint leader of the Scottish Army at the Battle of Stirling Brig, along with William Wallace. Now when you watch that film Braveheart, you see William Wallace in a kilt. Absolute nonsense. He was a knight, and he would have been on horseback, wearing the traditional garments of a knight. With him was Andrew Murray, a very famous Scottish knight, who fought at the head of the battle at the Battle of Stirling Brig. At that battle, Andrew Murray was injured and died some months later. But both Murray and Wallace sent a letter to ports in Europe to let them know that Scotland was once again free and the ports of Scotland were open again for business. We've always been able to do business with other countries' people. Don't believe the nonsense you hear from Westminster. People like Andrew Murray gave their life for Scotland. This is William Wallace and his wife, Marion Broadfoot. They stayed in a house in Lanark. The English hunted them down. They found that Marion was in the house on her own. So they burned the house down with Marion inside. They burned her alive. They have tried to totally wipe out every Scot who has stood for the freedom and rights of Scotland. This is William Wallace. This is a sort of get-up they would be wearing, not a kilt as shown in Braveheart. On the 23rd of August, 1305, William Wallace was taken to Smithfield in London, where he was hung, drawn and quartered on the orders of Edward I. Now, it wasn't just William Wallace that was hung, drawn and quartered. Thousands of Scots were hung, drawn and quartered. Even Wallace's brother, William Wallace's brother, who fought beside him, was John Wallace. He was hung, drawn and quartered at Smithfield in London, 2 years after William Wallace was hung, drawn and quartered. This is Wallace being led through the streets of London, where he was tortured before his execution. There were other brave Scots who fought for Scotland's freedom, like Simon Fraser and his brother John Fraser. They took part in many battles alongside Robert the Bruce and William Wallace. Both Simon Fraser and John Fraser were captured by the English and taken to Smithfield in London, where they were hung, drawn and quartered. This is Robert the Bruce. He won the Battle of Bannockburn against unbelievable odds. The English army were 4 times larger than the Scottish army. They assembled the biggest English army there has ever been to come up to Scotland and completely wipe us out. But one thing they didn't reckon on was Robert the Bruce. He is the greatest leader that Scotland ever had. He positioned his troops in such a way that the English cavalry went into the boggy ground of the Bannockburn, and the Scots picked them off. While this was happening, there was thousands of Scots watching what was going on, sitting on the fence. But when they saw the Scots were winning, they joined in and won back Scotland's freedom. 6 years after the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, in the year 1320, we made the Declaration of Arbroath. So long as 100 Scots remain alive, we will never subject ourselves to the dominion of the English. It is not for glory, it is not for riches, neither is it honor, but it is liberty alone that we fight and contend, for which no honest man will lose but with his life. It took 9 years after the Declaration of Arbroath, in the year 1329, before England acknowledged Scotland's independence. But to hell, we don't need them to acknowledge our independence. We will take it back when the time is ready. We don't need their recognition. Robert the Bruce died in 1329. And even although in these days there was no newspapers or radio or television, there was 20,000 people lined the streets to remember Robert the Bruce. His heart was taken from his body and placed in a silver casket to be carried to the Holy Land, to be laid in the tomb of Jesus Christ. It was carried by the Black Douglas. Robert the Bruce was buried in a cloth of gold in Dunfermline Abbey, where his body still lies to this day. The greatest hero Scotland ever had, Robert the Bruce. This is the Black Douglas, Scotland's greatest knight. He took part in 70 battles. He was given the job of taking the Bruce's heart in a silver casket to be laid in the Holy Sepulchre, the tomb of Jesus Christ. En route through Spain, he was met by King Alfonso of Spain, who asked if he could get help to fight the Moors, the Arabs who had been invading Spain. So what happened was the Douglas agreed to help in the fight against the Moors. And on the 25th of August 1330, the Black Douglas and other famous Scottish knights took part in the battle. He carried the heart of Robert the Bruce in a silver casket. And what actually happened during the battle, the Scots were unaccustomed to the fighting style of the Moors. So the Moors fled during the battle, and they were pursued by the Scots while the Spanish knights held back. Unfortunately, the Black Douglas and other famous Scottish knights were surrounded by thousands of Moors and they were cut down. They brought the Douglas back to Scotland along with the heart of Robert the Bruce. And the heart of Robert the Bruce is buried to this day under the high altar of Melrose Abbey. So if you ever go to Melrose, you will see the high altar. That's where the heart of Robert the Bruce is, under the high altar. This is William Sinclair. He was a famous knight who fought alongside Robert the Bruce, William Wallace and the Black Douglas. He was also cut down in battle at the Battle of Tiba in 1330. The body of William Sinclair is actually situated in Roslin Chapel, the famous chapel in the east coast of Scotland, which is associated with the Da Vinci Code. In 1513, Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded, just another one of thousands and thousands of Scots who have been executed by the English as they try to wipe out our people. This is a depiction of Culloden. Today is the 16th of April, the anniversary of Culloden, which took place on Culloden Moor, 16th of April 1746. As I explained earlier, Bonnie Prince Charlie stayed at this location from the 26th of December of 1745 to the 6th of January 1746. They then made their way north, fleeing the English. But they were eventually caught up with at Culloden, and they were massacred. Every one of them were massacred at Culloden. And as I say, the Butcher Cumberland instructed his troops to kill every man, woman and child in the area. They have tried to wipe us out, but we're still here. We're still fighting for Scotland. We will never give in. Never. Even in this modern times, Scots are dying because of the Tory cuts. They employed a company called Maximus, who are guilty of fraud in America. Since Maximus took over, thousands of people have been taken off benefits and have died under the Tories' system of using this company Maximus. Some people, even when they're suffering from cancer, have been told that they are fit for work. It's time to get rid of the Tories. It's time to remember all the Scots who fought for Scotland's freedom Stand up for Scotland. Fight for Scotland's freedom. Thank you very much.